Hey, what's up everyone, it's your girl Brain Shanae, and today I'll be sharing with you my Blackoweenathon wrap up, so please stay tuned. And I'm back, and also if you're new to my channel, welcome. If not, welcome back. So like I said before, I'll be sharing with you my Blackoweenathon wrap up. Now you probably have already known all the books that I've read throughout the month of October. If you have been seeing my weekly check-ins in October that I've recently done for the past maybe three or 4 weeks. So I'll definitely leave all those videos up above so you can check those out. But for those of you that haven't watched them, I still wanted to do this wrap up anyway, because I have completed all the prompts and everything for the Blackoweenathon. Now I did change up a few things, but I will let y'all know more about that. So the book that I fulfilled for, I would say, underrated and for the 19th century read, it was this book. It was The House of Dyes Deer by Virginia Hamilton. I gave this book a 5 stars. I really love this book. I love the family dynamic in this book, especially when it comes to Black families, and also it's located in Ohio, which that's where I am currently. So this was near and dear to my heart, and I just love Virginia Hamilton's writing. A lot of people know about her, of course, and some people really don't. And this is a book that has another book, so a companion book to go with it. But I really enjoy this book. This is very spooky and scary. Even if I didn't have picked it for the 19th century read, it definitely would have been like I would say like a mystery and horror book combined. So yeah, I mean, even look at the ghosts and stuff on the cover. I mean, it looks like a horror and a mystery book to me. But yes, a 5 out of 5 stars for this book, The House of Dyes Deer by Virginia Hamilton. And then the next book that I read, which is a thriller, and it has queer rep, and it is also a mystery read for me, and that is Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. 5 out of 5 stars, hands down. I love Buddy Lee. I loved Ike Randolph. I liked how they were starting to be close to one another, especially that both of their sons were married and have a daughter. And it's a mystery, and it's a thriller because, you know, they're trying to figure out who killed their sons. So that's a mystery, and it's a thriller because it's such a ride, because Ike, him as his nickname is Riot, and Buddy Lee getting down to the nitty-gritty on who had killed their sons, even if they had to torture a few people along the way to do so. But instant 5 out of 5 stars for this book. If you have read this, let me know your thoughts on it. This is my first book that I read by S.A. Cosby, and I'm planning on reading more by him. It was just really good. Now I will say I did listen to the audiobook and did a hybrid reading for this. So if you don't want the physical book, I suggest do a hybrid read or audiobook, because the voices for Buddy Lee and Ike Randolph is hilarious. Like in the audiobook, you can really sense their personalities. It's amazing. But yes, a 5 out of 5 stars for Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. The next book, which I felt like Erica from The Broken Spine, she had influenced me to get it. Yes, I think she did, especially since she was reading it during our reading sprints for the Blackoweenathon. So I decided to pick it up, and that is Ring Shout by P. DeJelly Clark. I consider this a horror book, which this was really interesting for it to be a novella. Like, there's so much stuff going on, so much action packed in this book, and it's only like maybe 180 pages long, and it was really good. You know all the main characters, especially Mary. I loved how they have the Ku Kluxes and all that in that aspect. I find that very fascinating and interesting. I also had recently read another book by him, God's Drum, I think was his other book that he had written maybe a couple of years ago. So I did love that book as well, so definitely check that one out. But this one was very good. I'm glad that I picked it up for the Blackoweenathon. But yeah, so we have Ring Shout by P. DeJelly Clark, which I love so much. And then the group read, which is The Confessions of Franny Langston by Sarah Collins. Yes, I had read this book. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars because it was, let me say, if I didn't have the audiobook, I don't know how I was able to push through it, because just reading it, the physical copy without hybrid reading or audiobook, whatever you want to call it, I probably would have DNF'd this book for sure. You know what? Yes, I definitely would have, because it is very slow paced. You know, we're reading this book that is written by the main character, Franny, as she's in prison, and she's writing down her story from the very beginning to the very end. And, you know, her accounts were, you know, it was good. I will say there's a lot of content warnings where, you know, like, testing on, you know, on people, especially Black people. They were also testing on albinos. And, you know, like genetic testing, which was very disturbing, and, you know, has the N-word. It drops the N-word multiple times. So those are some content warnings, if that bother, you know, if that would bother you, especially, you know, I know some people that don't read books that, you know, have the N-word in them, period. But overall, I really did like this. Of course, this is like a slave narrative where we're talking about where Franny's in this book, and we're going from the very beginning to when she was in Jamaica, and she was was a slave, and she was, you know, in the house, and we find out certain things about Franny till like close to the middle of the book, perhaps. And that's when I think that's when it started picking up. But in the very beginning, it's very, very, very slow paced. I wish it wasn't, but then again, this is considered Franny's accounts of her life from the very beginning. So it might have been, there wasn't really a lot of action until the very end, because then she breaks down certain things that happened in the beginning of the book that we didn't know who did what until the end. So, I mean, I would say it's definitely mysterious too. There's a mystery within this, because you're trying to figure out who had killed Madame and Benham. George Benham, you know, she's located in London, and both the Madam and Benham are found dead. And she's a servant in the household, or maid. But yes, so within these accounts, she's also in prison. She's you know, on her trial and everything about the murders. So it was very interesting. At the end, I knew that was going to happen regardless, even if she was innocent on something. You know, I'm not going to spoil it for y'all. But I definitely suggest you, if you want to read this, if you like slave narratives, and it's, you know, like historical type of deal, I would definitely have you pick this up. Even in the synopsis, it says, "No one knows the worst thing they're capable of until they do it." All of London is abuzz with the scandalous case of Franny Langton, who was accused of the brutal double murder of her employers, renowned scientist George Benham, and his eccentric French wife, Marguerite. Crowds packed the courtroom, eagerly following every twist, while the newspaper prints lurid theories about the killings and the mysterious women being held in the Old Bailey. The testimonies against Franny are damning. She is a seductress, a witch, a master manipulator, a whore. Franny claims she cannot recall what happened that fateful evening, or how she came to be covered in the victim's blood, even if remembering could save her life. But she does have a tale to tell, a story of her childhood on a Jamaican plantation, her apprenticeship under a debauched scientist who stretched all bounds of ethics, and the events that brought her into the Benham's London home, and into a passionate and forbidden relationship. Though her testimony may seal her conviction, the truth will unmask the perpetrators of crimes far beyond murder and indict the whole of English society itself. The Confessions of Franny Langton is a breathtaking debut, a murder mystery that travels across the Atlantic and through the darkest channels of history. A brilliant, searing depiction of race, classic, and oppression that penetrates the skin and sears the soul. It is the story of a woman of her own making in a world that would see her unmade. And also, if it wasn't in the group read, you could still pick the group read pick. You could still pick this up for mystery or queer representation in it. But it's very, very good. There is some disheartening things, you know, as it is a slave narrative. So you got to look at it from that perspective. Like, you're going to be reading things that, you know, were said back in that time during slavery and stuff. And I do believe during this time, that's when England, abolished slavery, but it was still everywhere else. Right. So it's very interesting. And even if when they abolished slavery, they still treated Black folks like slaves. So like I said, I found this very interesting. But It was very, very slow. That's the only downfall of this book. But fortunately, I also had the audiobook, so I was hybrid reading. So I was very happy with that. And the speed that I chose to keep it going was like 1.8 on Audible. So yeah, that was my speed to get through the book, because literally before I started listening to the audiobook while reading, I was on page like 180 and I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. So I got the audiobook and I was able to get through it quite quickly than what I would have done if I just read it, period. But yeah, and so the book that you have seen in my TBR was Dead Girls. I had DNF'd that. It was by Nikesa Afia. I DNF'd it because I will leave that video up above, like I said before, where I go in more detail of why I DNF'd it and why I will be picking it back up. I just don't know when, probably for Blackoweenathon next year. So that way, or I'll just pick it up anyways, and then I know there's a second book, so I'm gonna still read it, but I was just not in the headspace. But like I said, all that information of why I DNF'd it and how I was feeling about it, I'll leave that up above so you can check that out. But that is my Blackoweenathon wrap up. I really hope you enjoyed Blackoweenathon. I know I did. This was my first year participating and being a co-host, and it was absolutely amazing. Bree is amazing. She is the creator. I'm gonna say it again. She is the creator, y'all. So don't be trying to take her stuff. But anyways, yeah, she has more in store for next year, you guys. So definitely keep an eye out for that. You know, follow her everywhere. Follow her on Instagram, Twitter. Subscribe to her on YouTube. All the co-hosts, please give them some love as well, because they are amazing human beings. They're funny, hilarious. We had a good time with the live on the 30th that night, all the way into the next day. It was crazy. It was definitely fun. I was laughing, which I really needed that pick me up, especially from everything that's happened this past week. But yeah, so that is my Blackoweenathon wrap up. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Also hit that subscribe button, that bell, to be notified when I upload more videos in the future. But thank you so much for watching, you guys, and please stay healthy and stay safe. See ya.